They don't shy away from anything here. Only thing I will say that they did probably shy away from a little bit, and this may be controversial here, but for years it's always been said that Vince was, a little racist, kind of on the racist side, and WWE didn't give the same opportunity to black entertainers as they did the white ones. You had, Coco Beware. Coco Beware. Remember the bird guy? The guy that came to the ring doing like this, and every time he cut a promo, he act like he was preaching. Oh, when I get to the ring, daddy, I'm gonna do this and Jericho juice flying all over the place. Like, brother, what are you on? And here's the review. All right, y'all. So I just finished the highly anticipated, at least for me, Netflix documentary, Mr. McMahon. And I've been saying for years that I want to see Vince McMahon's life story, at least in a movie or in this case, a documentary. Either way, I just want to see the whole Vince McMahon story because I think he's one of the most fascinating characters known to man. Just change just the landscape of not just wrestling, just entertainment, period. So it's a 6-part documentary here, and I don't want to say I'm going to go into spoilers because, who doesn't, if you're a wrestling fan especially, who doesn't know about Vince McMahon? And right off rip, that's one of my problems with this documentary is that I didn't learn anything, okay? I learned nothing because if you've seen any shoot video ever from any wrestler, from Hogan to whoever, Vince's story. Even Vice did like a hit piece documentary on him where they, exposed a lot of things. So, if anything, I guess to the new viewer that doesn't know nothing about wrestling and nothing about Vince McMahon, you're probably gonna be like, "Oh my God!" So I think maybe that's who the audience is for this one. But to those that actually watch this shit since birth, yeah, I'd listen. It's like they just took a compilation of all the shoot videos on YouTube and just put it into one documentary, so it makes it easier than going down a rabbit hole. I guess with a documentary like this, it's hard to do because Vince is an anomaly. He is a very complex person, and that's what made him such a boss because it's very hard to really describe him as a person. So I guess the filmmakers did the best they could with what they had, but it's like, how do you make a documentary on a man like this? Because he's like so many things at the same time. And right before this documentary came out, Vince and the WWE were all like sweating and nervous, like, oh God, like, please just Netflix pull the documentary out. We don't want nobody to see this. And Vince even put out a statement saying like, hey, don't believe a lot of the stuff that's in here. There's always two sides of the story, whatever. Look, y'all, if you're expecting a hit piece on Vince, and this is to Vince and WWE also, trust me, this doc will do nothing to tarnish the brand of the WWE, okay? The Goobly Gobbler is still the biggest tarnishing of the brand of the WWE, okay? That tarnishes that more than this documentary. This was not a hit piece. To me, this just told the whole story of when Vince took over the company from his pops all the way up until when he had to step down and resign. And you don't get that really until like the very last part, you know what I mean? But each episode starts out saying like, hey, before the interviews ended here, we, Vince got in trouble. He wasn't able to finish doing this. He got alleged this, or whatever. But in no way, shape, or form is this a hit piece. This just shows what he's alleged of doing. Okay, but he hasn't got his day in court yet, so they can't say like, well, hey, he's a monster, he did this. No, this is what supposedly happened, what allegedly happened, most likely did happen. You know what I mean? But it doesn't paint him out to be a bad person, and they show the good and the bad. So they show how he started the whole rock and wrestling connection and how Hulk Hogan shot to stardom, and Vince was a big part of that. He was 90% part of that. 90% of what came out of Hulk Hogan's mouth was Vince McMahon. Like, that was his creation. And just how he took wrestling that used to be in the territories to now this global phenomenon where it's part of pop culture now, it's part of mainstream media. It's not just a cult thing anymore. This, like, everybody knows wrestling. Even if you don't watch wrestling, you knew who Hulk Hogan was, you knew who Andre the Giant was, and just all the different eras of wrestling. So they cover the Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression, PG Era, up until now. So it just shows Vince's total body of work. And like I said, it shows the good and the bad, because not only do they show the great things that he did for the business, but also the Montreal screw job, the steroid scandal that happened back in the 90s. So they don't shy away from anything here. Only thing I will say that they did probably shy away from a little bit, and this may be controversial here, But for years, it's always been said that Vince was, a little racist, kind of on the racist side, and WWE didn't give the same opportunity to black entertainers as they did the white ones. And the black entertainers that they did have, come on, y'all, it's hard to argue against this. You had, Coco Beware. Coco Beware. Remember the bird guy? The guy that came to the ring doing like this, and every time he cut a promo, he act like he was preaching. Oh, when I get to the ring, daddy, I'm gonna do this, and Jericho juice flying all over the place. Like, brother, what are you on? Bad News Brown from the ghetto, okay? And in real life, Bad News Brown was a fucking Olympic judo champion. You had the Doctor of Soul, Slick, the pimp, all right? The Junkyard Dog, who was a fan favorite, but come on, man, it felt like blaxploitation, but in wrestling. Like they just said, okay, if you're a black wrestler, you gotta talk with jive, you gotta be able to break dance, you gotta be, you gotta talk like this, daddy. You know what I'm saying? And only black wrestler I heard that Vince really gave a big push to was Ahmed Johnson. Like I heard he was crazy about Ahmed Johnson, but unfortunately, Ahmed Johnson was not championship material. He couldn't put a sentence together, but for whatever reason, Vince was he was fascinated with Ahmed. But, I wish he would have took that same energy and put it towards Ron Simmons, because Ron Simmons was a champion in WCW, and I wouldn't doubt that Vince could have made him a champion in WWE, but instead he put a fucking gladiator helmet on him and called him Farouk. So Vince really didn't know what to do with black talent, so now comes The Rock, right? So the way that they debunk racism in the WWE is they have The Rock speak, right? And The Rock is like one of the biggest stars ever. And of course, his dad is Soul Man Rocky Johnson. High Chief Peter Maivia was his grandfather, so he's black and Samoan. But, Rock didn't do the typical black shit. Say Rock was just The Rock, and Vince took a liking to him. And it was like, well, I don't care about the color of your skin, as long as you draw money, as long as it's green. But The Rock is he's a rare case because, I don't want to say he doesn't look black. I don't want to sound, but, he looks more Samoan than he does black, okay? Pretty much, if you didn't know who his dad was, you would think he was full Samoan, because them Samoan genes just took all the way to fuck over. And usually the black gene dominates, but no, in The Rock's case, it was the Samoan genes that dominated. But typically, if it's a black character, he'd Tony Atlas, turn him into Saba Simba. Okay, the Ugandan giant. Kamala. I don't know what the fuck that was. You know what I mean? So I digress. But I just found it funny how they just glossed over real quick about racism in the WWE, how that doesn't really exist, and Vince was just all about money, not so much. And I've heard stories too about how Vince would talk to certain black wrestlers. Okay, this comes from the mouth of Roddy Piper and a few others, that Vince was not too fond of the brothers. You know what I mean? But anyways, like I said, I digress from that. Vince was a very complex but yet fascinating and inspiring character. To go from the trailer parks and, growing up in the trailer park, having an abusive mother, being sexually abused, and abusive stepfather, to coming under his father's wing and then taking the company from his father. And I thought it was fascinating too, because when it came to Shane was supposed to be his successor. You know what I mean? And Vince, Paul Heyman. Well, okay, there's a scene in here where Paul Heyman talks about how Vince, how extreme he went to where he wasn't going to give the company up to Shane. Now that's probably one thing I learned. I didn't know that he went that far and said what he said to Shane, like you will never get this company. I'm never giving this shit up. So unless you want to do what I did to take it from my father, you're not going to get it, buddy. Whew. That shit was cold, son. So anyway, where am I at? Don't want to lose nobody. So yeah, bottom line is, this documentary covered a lot. This covered the history of the WWE from WrestleMania 1 all the way up until now. Hulk Hogan's featured in here. Well, I know people are not feeling the Hulk Hogan these days, but look, it is what it is. Hulk Hogan is who he is, but look, I separate the character from the person. You can't erase, like with a lot of these entertainers now, not just Vince, but, like Diddy and all these other people that are just going down, Cosby, no pun intended when I say going down, but you can't erase what they did, all right? I grew up a Hulkamaniac. I had the toys. I used to do the flexes, the Hulk Hogan flexes, you know what I'm saying, brother, and I was a Hulkamaniac. I cried when Ultimate Warrior beat him in WrestleMania 6. Okay, you can't erase what this man did. So I may not like Terry Bollea as a person, but as a character of Hulk Hogan, you cannot deny it. You know what I mean? So for everybody from Savage to Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know, I got the Austin 316 shirt. The Undertaker, you know what I mean? So all the colorful characters, like these were all Vince McMahon's creations. So whatever you think about Vince, you can't deny what this man has done. And that's what this documentary showcases, is the genius, the drive, the complexities of a man who is psychologically not there all the way, but he was just determined to make his dream come true, and just a total workaholic. He lived and breathed wrestling. So probably that's why they didn't go too deep into his personal life, because wrestling was his life. Wrestling was 24/7. You know what I mean? There's even a part where his wife says, like, you know, they were supposed to be on vacation, and when he came out of vacation, he had another idea for a storyline. You know what I mean? So the man just constantly, he just lived and breathed this shit. And it's like, we can only pray to find something that we're that passionate about, where we can do it 24 hours a day in our sleep, and it doesn't feel like work. We don't feel worn out by it because we love it that much. I mean, hell, if it was up to me, I create content all day. Like, I love doing this shit, but right now it's not really paying, so I gotta do what I gotta do to make ends meet. But when you find something that you truly love and then get paid for it, man, what more can you ask out of life? So, yo, Vince can die today, and he should feel proud of what he built and what he passed on. You know what I mean? Because it's still going strong to this day. WrestleMania is still the biggest event of all time, and people forget WrestleMania was a gamble. All right, Vince did not have the money to fund the first WrestleMania. He took the biggest gamble, and it paid off, and look at it now. All right. So with that being said, is this documentary worth a watch? Yes, it is. But to the hardcore wrestling fan, I guess kind of how fans felt about the Iron Claw, it really gave you nothing new and fresh that you didn't already know about Vince and the business. But to the new viewer, I think they'll be entertained, and I think they will enjoy it. All right. So with that being said, for me, I give this documentary, I give it a B+. Okay, you know, it's. Yeah, that's it. All right. So what did you guys think about it? Comment freely below. Let me know what you thought. If you like and dig this content, hit that like and subscribe notification bell in the corner. This is Rashad G signing out. See you in the next video.